Lesson 9.4, Video 3. So to get a common denominator, we mentioned that we have to understand what a least common multiple is, because that's what the least common denominator is. So there's a couple ways to find it. Remembering that, of course, the least common multiple is the least expression that is a multiple of two or more numbers. We discussed that in earlier videos. One method that you can use is called the miser game. Now the miser game basically states that you want to do the prime factors, and then you're going to look at each list of prime factors and take the greatest number of times it appears. So the miser is greedy, so it takes the most. So if you look at the first one, if you look at prime factors, we have 2 times 3 times x. And then we have 2 times 2 x, x, x. So the miser would say, who has the most 2's? And the miser would take those. So our least common multiple would be 2 times 2. And the miser would say, well, 3 appears once right here, no more times any other place. So that would be times 3 in our least common multiple. And the miser would say, what about the x's? Well, there's 1 x there, but there's 3 here. And his greed would take 3. So our least common multiple here would be 2 times 2 times 3, which is 12, and we would have x cubed. The other method that was discussed earlier was looking at the 6 and 4 and saying what's the least number that both can go into, that they have to be multiplied to get to. And that would be 12, which we end up getting right here. And then the miser, again, like I said, with variables works very well to take the one with the most. So that would be the least common multiple for those two monomials. Now the next one, I'm going to do the second way I talked about. So 8 and 12, what's the lowest number that both can go into? And that would be 12. I look at my m's. So I take the one that has the most, they both have the same, so m squared is it. I have t, I take the one with the most, and that's the least common multiple. Now it gets more interesting when you have binomials. To find out what the least common multiple is for binomials or trinomials, you must factor first. So we would factor the first one, and we get 5 times m plus 3. Factor the second one, and we get 2m plus 3. Now it's important to understand that the binomial is its own piece. So we can't look at it and say, oh, there's an m, or oh, there's a 3. No, it is an m plus 3, and it's locked together. So the common multiple deals first with these two numbers. What's the least common multiple? And that would be 10. Then I see that there's an m plus 3 in both. There's only 1 in each one, so the miser would take just one of them. And that is your least common multiple. So we have a monomial piece and a binomial piece. And the next one, here we have a trinomial. So we factor that trinomial. So product of 18 with a sum of 9 is plus 6 and plus 3. And then here we just have an x plus 3. So what is your least common multiple? Well, they both have an x plus 3 already. That's a good start. And one has an x plus 6. So that would have to be brought into to be considered a part of that least common multiple. So this is your least common multiple. Now when we apply this to an actual problem, it should make a little more sense as to why we're looking for least common multiple. And this ends Lesson 9.4, Video 3.